Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
So I want to say welcome to all of you listeners today. My name is Jerry Teo with the National Compadres Network, and I want to welcome you to this Healing Generations podcast, part of the Healing Generation Institute, along with the Brotherhood of Elders. I want to thank you for joining us today. And as we begin in our traditional way, I want to thank Creator and thank those ancestors, all the ancestors that have come before, that have made it possible for us to be here and share the lessons and carried those teachings and carried the wounds and carried all those issues. I want to invite those ancestors to come in, and as we do that, I want to welcome you and welcome your ancestors. Whatever lineage you come from, whatever roots, you may have 2, 3, 4 roots, bring them all in. Bring all those ancestors in that way. And, and speaking of those traditions and those ways, I'm really, really happy, really glad. I feel fortunate, blessed today to have a really good friend, a compadre. I consider him a brother. We've a colleague as well in that professional sense, but really a camarada, a homie, wisdom keeper. I'm speaking about Armando Lawrence, and Armando, has been around for a while. I'm not giving age, but he's been around for a while and and been walking, this good road for a long time. Armando is, wisdom keeper, carries a lot of teaching, knows a lot of stories. You sit with him and he'll tell you a lot of stories about a lot of places he's been, that he's walked and learned. And he's in that process of guiding many, many people. The tremendous work that he does, working with fathers, working with incarcerated men, work with young boys, but working with community as well, And so just want to welcome you, Armando, and give you the opportunity to welcome the listeners today.
Oh, thank you very much, brother. Much appreciated, Jerry. And welcome to everyone that's listening to this now. I thank you for being part of this, for opening up your ears and your hearts and your spirits to these palabras, these words. And I just hope I can share something that means something to someone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, brother. The way we always do, about even in the barrio, who are you? Where are you from? But the elders would do that too. The elders when they would greet you, pues the ¿quién eres? Who are you from? Who are your people? Who's your grandma? Who's your grandpa? What do you? And so I want us to begin that way by just saying, Armando, tell us a little about your people, your journey, your lineage, where you're from, so the audience can feel that spirit that way.
Ándale, gracias, Jerry. So I was born in 1953 in Boyle Heights. And so that some gente out there might know, I was born on Winter Street in Wilmot, which was right down the 2-3 blocks from Manuel's at Tepeyac, right there in Evergreen.
Oh, some big burritos there, man.
Yeah, the Hollenbeck special, and that's the Wabash Evergreen area of Boyle Heights. And I was named by my parents Armando Enrique Lawrence Jr. Because my dad's Armando. So I was named after him. And Enrique for his father and his grandfather. Lawrence, of course, that comes from my father's side. My father's from a mining town in Sonora that near the Arizona border. So it attracted a lot of miners from the United States. And so there's a number of folks from my dad's pueblo that are mixed with gringos, with white folk, with English, Irish, Germans. And so that's how I ended up with my last name, Lawrence. And my mom, she was born in East LA too, under the 4th Street Bridge, near the 4th Street Bridge is where she lived as a little girl. And that's the 4th Street Bridge is right there by Indiana and Lorena. And my mom's background is my abuelos, my grandpa being Manuel Vargas, mi abuelito, who came from I keep getting mixed up. He was either born in Chihuahua, or Parral, Chihuahua. There's a connection to the both pueblos. Family, the Vargas family was in both locations. My abuelo was caught up in the Mexican Revolution. He was a university man before that.
Wow.
As a child, he was, his father was a musician, and that's how he made his living. And in those days, from what I understand from my abuelito, is that his father had to take him around to different parties, fiestas, and whatever, and street corners and play music and try to make money. And at 5 years old, my abuelo would accompany him and started to train him into learning to play music. And, because of the revolution, my grandfather's university days ended. He was not able to graduate and collect a degree. But he was considered a master musician. He knew 7 instruments.
Wow.
Cello, mandolin, guitar, piano, violin was his favorite. He loved to play waltz music. As he puts it, that was the music of Mexico before mariachis. He was part of the revolution. He was part of the Villistas. He ended up in Juarez and eventually El Paso. And he met my grandmother, my abuela. She was a refugee from Zacatecas. Her family are the Muñoz para Vázquez de Mercado. Now, they had some land, and apparently the land belonged to the local native tribe, who during the revolution took the land back and left my abuela and her family landless, homeless. And because of the revolution, they had to leave.
Right.
My abuela was not very supportive of the revolution.
Yeah.
And but in any case, her and her mom and her brothers, 14 brothers, walked north with other refugees. And somewhere in Chihuahua, she met my abuelo, and then they reconnected in Juarez and El Paso. There's many more stories, and I can't tell them all because I'll be here all afternoon. But my abuelo hooked up with my abuela, and from there they came to L.A. What I will say is they had to leave. They felt they had to leave because my abuelo was already married.
Oh.
He had married a woman that, in those days, tradition was he was in love with a woman that had 2 sisters, and the eldest sister had not been married yet. So the father-in-law to be would not consent to a marriage until the eldest daughter was married. So the father-in-law consented one day to the marriage. And at the wedding, because in those days, I think the velos that the women wore,
Right, the veils, yeah.
were very thick and hid their face. And when it was time for him to kiss his bride, his wife, it was the oldest sister. It was It was not the sister, the woman that he was in love with.
Are you serious? Whoa.
So he was disheartened. He was upset. He wanted to break the marriage, but in those days, you couldn't do that. He ended up in time siring 2 children, my tío and my tío Manuel and my tía Dora. And my tía Dora, from what I understand, is still alive in Juarez, probably in her 90s at this point. But then he reconnected with my abuela. He met her. Turns out in El Paso, they were working a block away from each other. They connected and they came to LA to start a family. And so I'm a product of that.
And what's your mom's name?
My mom's name is, my mom is Olivia Vargas. And the full would be Olivia Vargas Lawrence, Vázquez de Mercado, Muñoz para.
Wow, yeah. And I remember, I know your mom. And it's such a blessing to know your mom and to be around her. Strong woman.
Thank you.
You could tell she liked to dress and liked to look good. Her hair was always done, and and just a lot of energy.
Yeah,
a lot of fire. Your mom and que pasa descansa. That she passed, and but you still have her in your heart. And,
oh yes.
And so how did Armando get here? I mean, you were born there and born in East LA, but
right.
then what school did you go to?
Well, I started off, I spent one day in Evergreen Elementary, but I cried so much my mom had to come and pick me up and take me home. I was real chipilon, you know, I was real pegado with my mom, and, you know, we had this real strong connection, and for a variety of reasons. Yeah. And, but man, I didn't want to be away from her as a little boy.
Right.
But I had to consent. After I came home and I cried, my parents talked to me. You have to go to school. So they took me to a different school. They took me the other direction to Malabar. Mm-hmm. And I was there for a year in kindergarten. And then my parents had me go to Assumption Catholic School, which is right there next to Mangos at Tepeyac. Yeah. I went there for a year and a half. Very, unfortunately, very horrible experience with the monja. The
nuns.
Yeah, she didn't, for some reason, she really had it in for me. She kind of, I guess you could say, victimized me and another guy in class who happened to end up becoming my best friend, Marty. Mm-hmm. She attacked Marty in front of the class for being very dark. And she said, there was a black girl in our class, and she says, well, black people are born that way, but dark Mexicans are dark because they're dirty, because they don't wash.
Wow.
And the monja went on to say that she was a gringa, white lady from Texas, and that they hated Mexicans. And that was her experience with Mexicans. And in my case, she you know, soy güero, right, and real güero looking. And she said that I was trying to pass as a gringo, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm a little kid, 7 years old, and she's saying all this stuff. And
wow.
She physically abused me, verbally abused me. She terrorized me the whole year. Back in those days, too, even though we were in East LA, they didn't allow us to bring Mexican food for lunch. Mm-hmm. But my mom would insist. She was very proud about her food. And she would make me burritos. And the nun would come and grab the burritos out of my hand and throw them in the trash. Mm-hmm. And so it was a real rough experience.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you sharing that, Mando, because I don't think, you know, I mean, that wasn't that long ago. And I don't think people realize that, because as I hear you talk about it, I hear your feelings.
Yeah.
It's still with you.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't realize that, you know, those experiences, you know, we grow up in families. We see sometimes our dads are real hard, or our moms are, you know, a certain way, or moody, or our grandparents are a certain way. And, you know, we say, damn, why are they like that? Or you think, well, that must be cultural. It must be the machismo. Must be, and don't really understand that that's pain. Yeah. That's the shame that has been put in us. That's the struggle that, you know, that we've had to go through, that we never had a chance. And even if we had a chance to heal it, even though, we, you know, many of us have done a lot of healing, when we talk about it again, it's still there. When we see it happen to our people again, it's still there that way, you know.
Yeah,
so,
very true.
So, and what high school did you go to?
Well, I went to Alhambra High School because by this time we had moved from East LA to Monterey Park.
Okay.
Went to a real good school, but I always struggled in school, you know.
Yeah.
I was not good in a scholarly way.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to Alhambra High School, and that's where it's like the pedal to the metal met, and I could not produce. I was lost. I could not keep up. The stuff went right over my head. And I flunked for freshman year. I was supposed to report to continuation school, but I have a tia on my dad's side, my dad's sister, very strong lady. She's passed now, my tia Ofelia Briceño. And her sons, my primos, were attending Cantwell Catholic High School in Montebello, East LA, borderline. And she goes, you know, mijo, I'm going to help you out because I could tell you're going to get lost in continuation. And so she set up a meeting. She took me to the meeting to meet with the head brother of Cantwell. And I thought, okay, you know, you have to remember, this is what, 1968, 69?
Yeah.
There's the East LA walkouts. There's the hippies. There's demonstrations. My dad's in the Chicano movement. And you know what?
Civil rights movement, all of it.
Civil rights. And you know what? I want to grow my hair long. You know, even at the public school, we were pushing it, right? Trying to dress the way we want to dress, and rebellion, and trying to be who we are, but it kind of maybe in a misguided way. And Cantwell, They wear ties. They have to wear their hair really short. I had that ugly experience with the nun when I was little. I know that they could be un poco bruto in the Catholic schools. But what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Go to continuation? I knew, too, in continuation, I would really sink. Yeah. There's no way I would graduate.
Yeah.
What would I get caught up with? Yeah. Drugs? Gangs? Stoners? I mean, I don't know. So I said, okay, I'm going to go. But I had an attitude.
Yeah.
My tia went in and talked to the brother, came out. Okay, you can go in and talk to him. I went in. He asked me a few questions. And within a few questions, he summed it up. He says, young man, I think you're a good guy, but for whatever reason, you got an attitude. And he says, you know what? We usually administer a test to get in. I'm not going to give you a test. I'm going to let you come in. The test is going to see if you can make it within the first 3 months. Because, to tell you the truth, I'm afraid of your tia. Yeah, he didn't speak Spanish, but he said tia. I'm afraid of your tia. Yeah. He says, so I'll let you have the joy of making her happy or disappointing her.
Wow.
And I said, whoa. I had a lot of mixed feelings, but deep down inside, I knew this man is speaking some wisdom, some truth.
Right.
And I need to swallow this truth. I need to take this opportunity. I'm not going to disappoint my tia. I'm not going to disappoint my mom and dad. I've been given a second opportunity. How I'm going to do it?
Yeah.
Flunking from public school and Catholic schools more advanced? I don't know. I just said a prayer and I go, vámonos, let's go. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So.
Did you graduate?
I graduated. I'm not going to say I got A's and B's, but I graduated.
Yeah.
And that was tough too.
Yeah.
But I graduated, and what I also like to tell people is I made lifelong friends there because it was a small school.
Yeah.
There was a lot of focus on each and every one of us. At Alhambra, I was lost. Yeah. There was 5,000 students in the freshman year, or in the whole school, 500 in the freshman class. At Cantwell, there was 500 students in the whole school. So I got a lot of individualized attention from the teachers. And I'm going to tell you another magic. Maybe not so much with the brothers, although some of the younger brothers were pretty interesting. But maybe because of the times, they didn't have to follow curriculums the way they did in public school.
Right.
They were a little more free. Religion class, the whole time I was there, we never talked about religion. It was always about what's going on in society, all the turmoil that was happening, civil rights, demonstrations, all the changes going on. That's what our discussions were about. And the lay teachers, I guess I came in a magical moment. And I'm sorry if I'm going on with this, but my point is that the administration, because of the times, had a very negative relationship with my cousin's class, which he was a class of 70. Not that they were student radicals, but maybe because of the times, they just butt heads. They didn't even get what would they call that? The graduation dance and homecoming, or they didn't get any of that. They didn't get to go to Disneyland like a lot of their high school. They didn't get any of that. So the brothers were trying to find some lay teachers that could work with us. Well, they brought in some Irish and Mexican-American teachers that were roughnecks when they were teenagers, but they had redeemed themselves, so to speak. They got into a program where they went to ELAC in the early 60s, East LA Community College. Yeah. And they became coaches. They learned to become health teachers and other things. Yeah. So those were my teachers. And those teachers were so creative, harsh. But it's kind of different when you have all boys. It was an all boys school.
Okay.
They played up on that masculine energy. And, some of it maybe might not be that positive today, and yet there was a positivity. There was a brotherhood that you felt. And they helped instill that in us. They helped groom that in us. Yeah. They were creative in the way they taught. Yeah. And it was a great experience. And I think all those things helped me to get out of whatever and into, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to make it. And I did.
Wow. As you're talking, I'm because, we worked together for a long time.
Right.
And I see those very same creativity. I see, the way that you've worked with youth,
Right.
and the way you work with fathers and men. I see that very same spirit that that maybe got watered, back then. I see the significance of relationships, and I think that's the difference that people don't understand is that, indigenous and culturally rooted people, we thrive on relationships.
Yes.
We get lost in all this in madness of so many people and technology and all of that, And I know probably through there was a trajectory of you working different places and doing different things, But what I want to ask you, because you're an elder, brother, you and been through a lot and taught a lot and given a lot, What are those lessons? What are those life lessons that you've learned along the way? Both good and bad, the things that you learn that are important. But what are the lessons you learned about life, that you learned about people, that you learned about culture, about identity, about trauma, what have you learned? What is it you that helped you along that way? What did your family teach you? Your people teach you?
I think, brother, I know the answer. It started with my mom and dad, the familia. It started with, or continued with those special teachers I had in high school. The Chicano movement, American Indian movement, the ceremonies, and then with our grouping, National Compadres Network, our brotherhood, that we have a lugar, that we're important, that we mean something, that we're meant to be here. I have a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not just an F student. I'm not just on the margins. I count. I have valor. I have value. There's a purpose for me being here.
Yeah.
And part of that is to learn what is that purpose, to understand it. And how do I touch others? How do I connect with others? Especially when I see others struggling with the same thing, feeling like they don't belong, like they've been pushed out, kicked out, unwanted, like they have no valor, no value in this life, and they do. We come from a sacred place. We were born in a sacred manner. We have a sacred path. Unfortunately, the world we live in and the society we live in, and sometimes the trauma in our familias, we don't see that. We don't connect with it. It's not instilled with it. We're not taught like in the ancestors that would guide you in that, helping you to connect with who you are, what your spirit is. What is your purpose in this life? What are your gifts, your talentos, your regalos? And when you don't come up with that, when you don't have that, and then when you're hit physically or verbally, called a burro, an idiot, where does that leave you? Out in the cold, suffering. And so I felt that, and I could see that in others. I feel it when people are feeling that way. And my heart just wants to reach out.
Yeah. You point to some very profound things that I think people take for granted. Because especially, for us, indigenous and people of color and even our LGBTQ relatives, that in which society, in which systems, in which sometimes our own familias,
right,
because of their woundedness, don't acknowledge and accept us. But we live in a society, and I know you. I mean, you've been through it, brother, through the Chicano movement and what we're striving for, but also through your whole life of just having to validate that you have knowledge, that you have wisdom, that you have teachings. For me, I went to school and got my degree and everything, thinking that, okay, now that I got that, people were gonna, value me. Right. It doesn't work. It's just not true. They still look at who I am and my skin color, how I look, what I'm dressed in, And I'm wondering how you navigated that, because, definitely, when you talk to you, when you're with you understand you're people from the corazon. You're raza. You're an indigenous relative. But looking at you, you look güero,
Right.
So I'm sure you have been mistaken, and people have misjudged you many times. How have you dealt with that dichotomy, that struggle between those two aspects of what your spirit feels, and on the outside how people perceive you?
It's been part of my path. I always, as a kid, I struggled with it. I wondered why. Why me? My mom taught me to be very proud in being Mexican. She got that from her parents, being from Mexico.
Yeah.
My dad, being born in Mexico, taught me that. When I was little in Boyle Heights, I went to the store one day and I got harassed by some other kids because I was light. They said, what are you doing here? This is not gringo land. Well, I'm not a gringo. Well, speak Spanish. Well, my parents didn't teach me to speak Spanish. Not much. Because they were suffering from prejudice and racism because they spoke Spanish and had accents. So they don't want me to suffer that. But worse, because I got it from the other barrio kids, Yeah. And I remember one day coming home when I'm little and I'm crying. My mom sent me to the store and I got into it with these kids and I get home. And my mom says, no, you're Mexican, you're Mexican-American. Your dad's going to talk to you about when he gets home. And he gets home and says, mijo, I'm Mexican, you're Mexican. Or, wow, you're Mexican-American. Some people are going to call you pocho. What's that, Dad? Well, it's not a good term, but you belong. You're connected. Mm-hmm. He says, in fact, I'm going to tell you something. He says, we descend from a tribe called the Opata tribe from Sonora. Mm. He says, you're connected to that tribe. Mm. Wow. But, he says, mijo, even other Mexicans may not understand that. Mm. It's best you just keep that within the family. Mm. But outside, tell people you're Mexican and that you're proud to be Mexican. Then my dad becomes a real estate agent, starts doing well, and he moves us out of the barrio and we go to Monterey Park. Middle class. I'm lost in this sea of white people.
Yeah, again.
I'm lost again. I'm on the margins again, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm the Mexican kid, one or two or three of us in class, but I'm the light-skinned Mexican kid. Mm. So even the other two Mexican kids in class said, we don't know if you're really Mexican. And white kids wanted to hang with me because I looked kind of like them, but they always somehow knew. My whole life, white people have always known. Maybe when I open my mouth, I don't know what it is, but even today, white folks will inevitably say, "Are you Mexican?" Mm. It's very important for them to kind of categorize me that way. But in school, I struggled. I struggled with that in-betweenness, being in between worlds.
Yeah.
I'm a pocho. I don't accept the word, but, I know that my own gente categorized me that way. Family from Mexico categorized. Well, you need to at least speak Spanish, mijo. Well, but that's up to my parents. They didn't teach me what, so I'm always in between my whole life.
Yeah.
The teachers in Monterey Park in the elementary schools would always tell me, Armando, you could make it, but you have to stop being so. They would either tell me, stop being so Mexican in my ways or in my heart. Mm. I had one teacher tell me, he says, I grew up around Mexicans. You guys are very much in your heart. It's beautiful, but that's not going to help you in this society. Mm. You need to be in your head. Forget the heart. Forget your Mexican culture so you can succeed. And I just couldn't even conceive of that.
Right.
So I struggled with that issue my whole life. But what my parents gave me, it's in my heart, mi corazón, right? Mm-hmm. And I also had, I would say, mystical experiences, dreams as a child that just would not let go of me, that connected me to my indigenous roots. Yeah. And I always stayed true to those, tried to, the best I could. But it's been a struggle. But, I feel comfortable with our gente.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting white people down, but their culture is not my culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do not feel comfortable there.
Well, you mentioned on the margins, right?
Right.
On the edge, and that's how I knew you. Mm-hmm. I know you. You work with people on the edge.
Yeah.
You work with people on the margins. Or work before at Bienvenidos, you were working with youth that were on the edge of getting incarcerated or kicked out of school, or in drugs and violence and barrios and gangs. You work with men that were on the edge of getting kicked out of their family and ostracized. You now also work with men that are incarcerated.
Yeah.
And they're right on the margins of whether they're going to, return to society and be fathers and partners and part of the society, or whether they're going to stay locked up forever,
Right.
So, so maybe those teachings and that journey were part of, that. And I think that the other thing is in terms of your identity, that's an ongoing question for all of us. Who are you? ¿Quién eres, right? And regardless of how we look, that's a question that this society asks us every day, makes us prove our value.
Yes.
Even, and you as an elder, you shouldn't have to prove anything with all that you've done and all that you've given and the way that you've carried yourself and the number of people that you shouldn't have to prove anything, right? But we still do. Even as viejitos, we still do. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your work that you're doing now. I know you're doing some work at the East LA Women's Center and also in the prisons, and you're doing some work with the compadres, and you've worked with our fatherhood and our, Joven Noble and all of that. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that work and why you do that work and,
Well, so I'm still doing the fatherhood work, culturally based, as we have learned and been taught through the National Compadres Network. And right now we're doing it through the East LA Women's Center. Great opportunity. Yeah. I love it. I love my work. I don't know how many people can say they love their work. I love my work. I love reaching out to others, and in this case, con hombres. I love sharing with them about being connected to who we are in our hearts and in our spirits. Being connected to our ancestors, learning the positive lessons, because it hasn't all been positive because of trauma. And also being connected to who's coming after us, to the children and their children. And that as I grow and learn about myself, that's going to help me become a good dad, a better dad, a good teacher to my children, a man who can abrazar his kids with his heart. Yeah. I also help lead the talking circle in East LA. Yeah. Where many men have an opportunity to come and just share what's going on with them. Sometimes it's real painful, tear-jerking experiences and stories and pain that they carry, trauma. And sometimes a lot of beauty too. Yeah. A lot of good positive teachings. And so I just help lead it. Me and my brother Ozzy. We just help lead it, guide it. Been real interesting doing it this past year on Zoom. Can't do it like the way we did it when we met in the same area together. But the spirit is still there. Yeah. And so those are beautiful experiences that men can gather that way. Brazo a brazo, helping each other move forward. And I've taken these teachings, these ceremonial cultural traditions, healing ways with me as I worked in the prisons. In the prisons, I've been doing 2 programs. One's called the Insight Garden Program, which is about planning and learning about gardening, but it also has another side to it, personal development, your personal garden. Well, I know a little bit about that, so I bring that in there. And I always bring in our cultural approach to who we are. I like to say one thing about that. The program is designed by güeros, by white folks, and good people, really good people. Yeah. But as liberal as they are, because of our society, I can sense a lot of them still come from the head, from the intellect. They're trying to get into the heart, but it wasn't their way they were shown or taught. They're trying. God bless them. But I try to bring that into our program. So like, for instance, they'll have a habit of diversity. There's a worry about if I stand up for who I am and who you are, that we're at odds with each other. And I tell them that's not the case at all. I go, look at that garden. That garden is diverse. Yes, you're right. It's diverse, but there's another duality that's going on there too. The diversity works because each plant knows who it is. Some plants grow next to each other because that's the relationship they need. Some need to be at opposite end of the gardens. And they understand that. Imagine if us human beings could understand that. It's not a bad thing. It's just some plants will kill themselves. They'll strangle each other. And they work well in the garden because they understand who they are. Right. I go, so I can connect with others too, but I need to be solid in who I am. I need to be strong in my roots and who I am, what I'm about, what my past, my present, and my future are about. Then I can, as I understand you, you understand me, we can find how we can work together. So I bring that.
Yeah.
And I bring some talking circle every now and then to that program. The other program I do is called the Creating a Healing Society. It deals with childhood trauma. Very good program. And of course, again, I bring in our cultural approach, our cultural understanding, spiritual understanding. I've done some talking circles for them. And I remind the brothers that I work with all the trauma they've had in their life. And I've heard, brother, I've heard some serious pain in their own talking circles where they open up and they privileged me with allowing me to be there as they share their deep, deep wounds, horrible things that happened to them growing up. I mean, just ugly. And how they have had the power to forgive those who have done these things to them. And I was in one group one day and they asked me, Armando, do you have anybody you need to forgive? I go, well, I and then I stopped. Yeah, there's an old homeboy did me and my family wrong. And I got to admit to you guys, I haven't forgiven him. Is it as terrible as the stories you've heard us share? No, it's not. Can you forgive? And I told him, I said, I think I need to. I need to learn how to do that. I haven't crossed that bridge. And you men have. You've shown me the way. Because you know as well as I do, brother, the people we work with, the men we work with, they're teachers too.
That's right.
And they taught me some powerful lessons. And in turn, they give me my place. They ask me, Armando, share some native teachings you know. Share some ceremonial teachings. Tell us about Chicanos. It's really interesting. The African Americans in there that learn, they really read up.
Yeah.
They say, what part of East LA are you from? Were you born? Do you know Manuel's at Tepeyac? Do you know the Mariachi Plaza? These guys, they educate themselves. So I bring in that talking circle. I bring in that healing circle. So it isn't just talk and teaching, but we can actually go through experiences that help us to heal in our hearts.
Well, that's beautiful. We could be here hours just talking about the work because, I remember when we worked at Bienvenidos, you worked in Joven Noble, and you're still doing that. You still have those teachings with you, and and so your journey is vast, and there's so many ways that I know there's another part that it's not really another part; it's a connected part, but it's a very strong part of all of us, but a strong part of you, and that's your ceremony.
Yeah,
that's the medicine that you live, living these ceremonial ways, this Red Road and all of that. I wonder if you can share with me just maybe one teaching, what you learned from that. What does that give you, and why is that important?
We're all related. We're all connected. We're related beyond human beings. We're related to the environment, the planet, Mother Earth, the sky, the water. Everything is a living thing in this life, even the rocks. And we're all related. We're all connected. We need to take care of those relationships. We need to foster those relationships. We need to deepen those relationships. As we do that, I feed myself. I feed my spirit, my heart when I do that. I think those are simple teachings that we need to remember.
And it seems simple, but it's so profound because, we're dealing right now during this pandemic, there's a lot of people that are struggling with depression, with anxiety, with suicide thoughts, and many of them say, I feel alone.
Yes.
Right? I feel alone. I feel disconnected. And, and part of that is because this society teaches you that unless you're with somebody else that you can vibe with or bond with or connect, then you're alone. And in a recent circle that I was doing, there was a sister there that says, for many years I felt alone because I was traumatized and I didn't want to let people in and all of that.
Right.
She says, but it was interesting because when I went to the ocean, I didn't feel alone. And I went in my garden, I didn't feel alone. And when I went to the sequoias, I didn't feel alone. She says, and when I began walking these ceremonial ways and realizing that grandfather son always comes up every day, that we sit on Mother Earth all the time, and she allows us to lay on her, especially when we need to rest, when we need to heal. And when you bring that different perspective in that our indigenous relatives have taught us for generations, then we see that we're not alone. We are interconnected, right? And of course, it's important to be connected with good people too, but that interconnection goes much deeper. And so I appreciate that teaching because it's very profound and it's really needed right now. Because a lot of people feel alone because they haven't been able to get out or see their relatives and all of that, and that's necessary. It definitely is necessary, But Zooming is really different than un abrazo, a hug, and being in person with somebody, So as we wrap this one up, Armando, I was wondering if you could give some counsel, some advice. As an elder, someone that's walked a long way. We always want to share something, especially for that next generation, So if you think about the 18-year-old Armando or the 25-year-old Armando that was looking for a way, and we have a lot of young people that definitely teach us but are looking to us too, for some guidance. We hope that they don't have to go through what we went through. We hope that they have some teachings where they don't need to go off the path and struggle maybe the way that we did. What kind of counsel or advice would you give that next generation that you wish you would have heard or that somebody would have told you?
Well, I think I did get some good teachings, but I think I fulfilled what I was told. And I the main one I'm going to say is my father. Mijo, as you get older, and I was maybe about 14, there's going to come a time where you're going to think you know everything. And he says, I in my 20s realized I don't. He said, but you're going to come across that. It's going to happen. And I kept saying, no, I won't. I'm going to remember the palabras of my dad. But it happened.
Yeah.
And I got rooted in thinking, I got the world. I got the world right here, and I understand basically what's going on. And I thought I knew everything. And because I was politically advanced, learning activism and about the world. And I think one day around maybe I was 26, 27, that late, it hit me. I don't know crap. My dad was absolutely right. I didn't know much. And I said, I had to back up. Okay, I know a little bit. I know something. First thing I know is the teachings my parents gave me. I need to connect with those. Now I have to sort out the negative and the positive because they had their own trauma too.
Yeah.
And so that took time to sort that out. What is positive in their teachings? But I can't dismiss my parents, my abuelos, those who came before me. They left a lot of powerful teachings, even the negative teachings. I may have to deepen my understanding of life to understand why those things happened, what happened, why they did what they did, to gain wisdom, to gain understanding. So I think we have a lot of good teachings around us, but we have to do what we can to keep not only our minds open, but our hearts open. How do you do that when our world only teaches us to be in the head? So are grateful to our Tolteca ancestors when they taught us about cara en corazón and being in balance, walking in balance.
The face and heart, yeah.
Face and heart, learning to be in the mind and the heart and seek a balance. And then the bottom line for me is that life is sacred and we're part of life. We're sacred. We were born sacred. And especially hombres.
Yeah.
Hombres, because the society give that up at an early age and do not see themselves as sacred. And see, somos sagrados. We are sacred. The women, the children, the elders. We just need to return to that truth and rediscover our sacredness and use that. We're part of creation. So we create. But what are we creating? Are we creating a living hell or a heaven? It's up to us. Yeah. But that's why we need to work together to make that happen.
Yeah. That's beautiful, brother. And as you're talking, I'm thinking that, grandfather sun comes up every morning and gets that medicine from grandmother moon, that male and female energy.
Yeah.
And shines a light on us and doesn't ask us, did you do something stupid yesterday? Did you? No. Still shines a light on us. And what it says that every day Creator gives another chance for us to live sacredness.
Yes.
We are already sacred, but it's our choice whether we live sacredness.
Right.
And that's the journey. And that's the reason why I have so much gratitude for you, because you've helped so many people to, first of all, see their sacredness and to water their sacredness. And you've been, through those roads and helping people from their wounds, coming from that darkness and breathing hope into them, right? And and your gentle spirit, really is medicine. Your gentle ways really is medicine. Your humbleness, really is medicine for many people that don't think they know anything. And so I want to thank you. Thank your mom and your dad. Thank your abuelos, your ancestors, but thank all your teachers.
Gracias.
That have come along the way to put Armando in this world and on this path, and to put you in my life as a brother, as a compadre, as a fellow person that's journeying on this way. I want to just, as we conclude today, ask you all to really think about these teachings. And Brother Armando talks about the sacredness, that all of us carry. And I really want to reach out to those people that are struggling, that maybe have done something that they feel ashamed or are difficult with. Of course, you got to do your work to heal that, but that doesn't take away your sacredness. And there's always people around that are that can be put in your path. The medicine is there. We're interconnected to all our relations, but it starts with us recognizing the sacredness of everything, that encloque nahuaque, that interconnected sacredness, and that our ancestors are around us. They're here. So I want to thank them for being here and guiding our plática today. I want to wish you blessings and health and healing along the path, and ask you, to continue listening to us. Share this podcast with others, and send in some reviews. What you learned, what you gained, and maybe others that you might want to hear from. This is Jerry Teo, and from the National Compadres Network, Healing Generations Institute. And thank you very much, and maybe you have a blessed day. Klasukaman.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.